You don't want to leave your safety and the safety of your family and friends to chance when you are outdoors in the wilderness. I like to mountain bike, I like to ski tour, I like to get out there, and so I've put together what I think is the ultimate medical go bag, and today I'm going to show you what's inside. Let's go. Welcome back to Citizen Surgeon, and today we're talking about first aid and medical go bags. My name's Dr. Eric Pearson. I'm a surgeon and I'm an outdoor enthusiast. So I wanted to show you what I take with me and at least keep in the car when I'm out on the go. And so whether that is hiking out in Red Rock Canyon, whether that is going on a mountain bike ride, or whether that is going on a ski tour, this is what I put in my pack. Sometimes I break it down and it's a little smaller, but oftentimes I'll bring the whole thing. So today I'm going to spread it out. I'm going to go through each of these things and show you what I have in here and why I keep it. Now I have everything spread out right here. And so I'm going to take you through each of the items that I keep in my bag. And then as we go, I'm going to throw the items back in the bag. You're going to see that it all fits. All right. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you one item in particular that you wouldn't think would go in a first aid kit or a medical go bag that helped me out tremendously when I split my leg mountain biking out at Gooseberry Mesa. And so now I always keep one of these with me. So stick around and find out what that is. All right, when we think about a medical go bag or a first aid kit, first we have to ask ourselves, how do we compartmentalize this kit? What are the categories that these supplies go into? All right, well, the first thing is, how do you carry it? Well, you can get really fancy compartmentalized bags, and there are a ton of them out there. I can put some links in the description below. But in reality, I think it's easy just to get kind of a cheap bag. I'll put a carabiner on it so I can hook it to my backpack, keep it inside, make sure it doesn't fall out. But I just take a simple pouch, all right? And you can pick these up on Amazon. I'll put a link. But I think these are really easy to just stuff things in, and if you don't need something, you can just pull it out. There's really no wasted space and none of these little kind of folds or pockets that you don't use. All right, so I just think this is the easiest thing. Now, when it comes to categories, the first thing is wound care. When we're out mountain biking or we're gonna ski tour, you know, we can catch a branch that could split our head. We could catch, you know, a ski edge that could cause a pretty nasty laceration. Mountain biking, I've split my leg on the pedals, I've split my leg on rocks, helped other people out. So wound care is probably the biggest category. So let's start there. So first with wound care, we want to start with wound cleaning. That can be as easy as having some alcohol swipes. Okay, so I always keep some alcohol wipes, both to clean my hands as well as to clean out a wound. If it's an abrasion, whatever it is, and keep these, and that's going to help sterilize something so that we can now work on wound closure. So we're going to throw those in the bag. Right? The next thing that goes along with wound cleaning is wound irrigation. So I keep just a little syringe. You can have a 5cc syringe or a 3cc syringe, and then when you get a little bit of water or whatever you have, you can irrigate that wound. Maybe you need to get rock out of it or some dirt, gravel, whatever it is. A little syringe is going to help you irrigate that wound. So that goes into wound cleaning as well. Then we think about wound closure. Now, if we have an abrasion, maybe we have road rash from a mountain biking or road biking accident, we might not be able to close the wound. And in that case, what I like to do is I keep a petroleum dressing, just a little petroleum gauze. And that is fantastic. After you've irrigated a wound, cleaned it up, you can put that over, followed by some gauze and maybe an ACE wrap, and that's going to protect that wound until you can get it further evaluated by a medical professional if you do think that that is necessary. Also, when it comes to abrasions, I think a antibiotic ointment, triple antibiotic, or a bacitracin, a neosporin, something that keeps the wound moist. If you checked out my video on wound healing, you'll know that keeping a wound moist and protected assists with that wound healing process, and an antibiotic ointment, especially when you're out in the elements, can certainly help keep that wound clean and free from infection. At least in the short term, I think it's a good idea. So we put those things in there. So now we get to wound closure. So as a surgeon, I think of this in steps. Okay, so if we have a very simple laceration, very small laceration, perhaps we were cutting an apple and we're out in a yurt and we split and hit our thumb, well, we're going to clean it the best we can. And then for that, I like to use Dermabond. So you can purchase these little pens of Dermabond, and it's fast acting, so we crack the capsule inside, get that flap down, and then we can just paint it closed. Also works with simple lacerations that come easily together with little tension, and it is about the strength of a 4-0 monocryl suture. It's a monofilament suture. So I think Dermabond is great to keep in the pack, and I'll put links to all of these things in the description below if you want to pick these up to put in your kit. So if we have more complex lacerations that Dermabond isn't going to get it together, we want another step to our ladder for wound closure. And I think wound closure strips, or steri strips as they're called, are fantastic. These are little adhesives that'll go across the wound, and you can put these usually just one after another, kind of in a ladder like along a wound to get that closed. And I think these are fantastic to keep in the house in your first aid kit, and they work really well when you're out on the trail. They're also called butterfly bandages. You know, they also have the ones easy close with the little zip ties on them. I don't think those are as malleable or flexible, so I don't keep those in my pack. I think steri strips are the best ones to keep and the most effective. To keep steri strips down, so one of the things, if you have you're sweating or you have a lot of moisture on the skin, even if you're trying to keep it dry, I think Mastisol is really good to have. It's basically a liquid adhesive, and so if we put this on either side of the wound after we have it cleaned, little Mastisol, then let it dry, put the steri strips down, that's going to stick and give us excellent wound closure. So I think steri strips with Mastisol work really hand in hand. So throw those in the bag. Another option if we have very small wounds is Band-Aids. So it seems like this is probably the most common thing you'd need, so you definitely want to keep some Band-Aids in your pack. And then finally, when it comes to wound closure, now I'm a surgeon, so I know how to do this, and I'm going to put some videos together on how to suture, but I particularly like to have some simple suturing equipment. I can clean these up with my alcohol swabs, and then I keep some sterile suture with me. And I keep a very small needle driver about the size of my hand because it's small and packs easily into the pouch. Also a set of forceps. The forceps themselves are nice if I do need to pluck any debris out of a wound or perhaps even remove a splinter. And then you might ask, well, where are your scissors? I keep a multi-tool, so I have a Leatherman multi-tool I keep with me. Has a nice pair of scissors on it, as well as some other tools in there, of course, and that certainly helps me. And I'll keep like a usually monocryl suture as well as a permanent suture like a nylon. That'll help me put some simple interrupted sutures if there's something that can't close with a Dermabond or with a steri strip. So that goes in the wound closure kit. So after wound care, the next category that I think is really important would be trauma. All right, well, what are the things that I think about when it comes to trauma? Well, first is stopping bleeding, and second is stabilization. All right, so let's get to the stop the bleeding. Well, I keep a tourniquet in my kit, all right, and I have this ready to go, so it's already in the loop, and so I can get that over an extremity. I can self-tighten it if I need to. It has a windlass on it, so that's going to give us the opportunity to tighten that down, stop any bleeding from our extremities. And I think a tourniquet is a life-saving piece of equipment. If you're familiar with the Stop the Bleed campaign, that is a campaign by the American College of Surgeons that really promotes keeping tourniquets and knowing how to use them, because you could certainly save a life with this. So that's part of the trauma category in our medical kit. Next, when it comes to bleeding is I like to use surgical fibrillar. All right, so this is an absorbable hemostat. Basically, it's something that you could shove into a bleeding wound, and this is going to stimulate the coagulation cascade, and combined with a tourniquet and direct pressure is going to help us get hemostasis. So this is really easy to fold up, and you can peel it, use it, shove it into a wound. I've never had to do that, but I think it's a good idea to keep a topical hemostat, something like Quick Clot or surgical fibrillar in your medical kit so you can stop bleeding if that indeed is needed. Right, next in stabilization would be triangular bandages. Now I keep 2 triangular bandages, and if you're interested, leave a comment and I can show you how to use these in the future, but you can get them on Amazon for really cheap, the cheapest chips, okay? And the nice thing about using triangular bandages is you can, number one, use one triangular bandage direct pressure for bleeding for laceration, and then the next triangular bandage, and I'll just show you real quickly, because when you open these, they don't open into a triangle, they open into kind of a long, narrow dressing. And that is really nice because if you certainly need to tie down gauze and get pressure, you can do that with this, and you can just wrap that around and tie that down, and it'll keep getting, you know, longer, and if that's how much you need, that's how much you can use. There's also some stretch to it, so you can get a nice tight pressure dressing over something that's bleeding. Once you fold that out, then you can use it as a sling and stabilize a fractured clavicle, or stabilize a broken humerus or a dislocated shoulder as part of that triangular dressing. So there's a lot of uses for this. You can use these to secure splints in place if you have a broken distal extremity. Okay, so that's really important to have triangular bandages, and if you have 2 of them, I think that is really nice because you can use it in multiple ways. So the next component of trauma and stabilization is gauze, ACE wraps, and tape. Okay, so having some gauze allows you to pack this into a wound, or cover a wound, or secure a petroleum dressing in place, or wrap a wound that you've placed a lubricant or bacitracin over. So gauze can be extremely helpful. Put that in the pack. Next would be an ACE wrap. So this is a small sized ACE wrap, and these have multi-functions. Okay, so if we want to secure a dressing in place, if we want to secure a splint in place, ACE wrap will help us secure dressings, secure splints for broken, injured lower extremities, and that is very useful. And then finally it comes to tape. Okay, so when we look at tape, I'll use a perforated tape that sticks to just about anything. Can secure your gauze, it can secure your dressings, can secure the ACE wrap if you just need a little bit extra security there. And then finally, Coban is a stretch dressing that is kind of self-adhesive. So let's say that we have a dressing in place and we want to secure that dressing. We have a splint in place and we need to secure that splint, and our tape's not sticking. We can use Coban, and that's going to be an excellent resource for securing dressings, splints, that type of thing. So I'll keep medical tape, but I'll also keep the Coban. Coban is fantastic for finger injuries. If, like, let's say we have a small injury on the finger, we want to get that closed and then apply some Coban over that. That's going to secure that. I really think that this is an awesome piece of equipment to have in any first aid kit. So the next category would really be survival equipment, all right? And I think that there are a lot of different things you could have here depending on the activity that you're doing, all right? I just got back from a ski touring trip. So of the survival things that I have in here, one is paracord. Now, paracord has a ton of different uses, all right? When it comes to being out in the wilderness, you can use paracord to help with a shelter, okay? When it comes to medical uses, you could use paracord to have an improvised sling. You could use it as a tourniquet. You can also use it to secure certain items, all right? Any storage that you need to make, you can use paracord to secure it. So a lot of different uses for paracord. You could use it for signaling. Brightly colored paracord can be used for that. So I think that this is important whether I'm out mountain biking or I'm out ski touring. When I was ski touring, you can use paracord to, as an improvised fix for your bindings, perhaps to secure your skins in place. You can also use walleye straps for that. But paracord has a lot of options, so I think this is fantastic to have in your kit. Other things in the survival category. So one is I keep some sunscreen with duct tape wrapped around it. Duct tape, kind of like paracord, has 1,000 different uses. Okay, so you got to have some duct tape with you. That's going to help you fix just about anything. And then I have a little sunscreen bar on there, and that helps us from the elements as well. And then also in my survival kit, here I was out ski touring. We're out in the wilderness up in the northeastern Oregon, so I have some waterproof matches. Keep that in there. You probably don't need that if I'm mountain biking down in the southwest in the desert here, but just was up ski touring, so that's what I had in the medical go bag for this last weekend. Now we're about to get to that one piece of equipment that I think is absolutely necessary, and it's on the table. You might not see it, but hang on, all right? But before that, moleskin, all right? You could say this fits in the wound care category, but I'll put this in kind of the miscellaneous category because having blisters on your feet, you have to have a way. So if you're doing a long hike or if you're out ski touring, blisters, they can end the tour really quick, all right? So you want to make sure that you have some way of healing blisters and even preventing blisters if you do have hot spots in those hiking boots or in your ski touring boots. So I put that there. Next category would be medications. So simple medications. I have these little pill pouches, and I'll put ibuprofen in there. So 200 milligram tablets of ibuprofen. I keep Tylenol, so 500 milligram capsules of acetaminophen. And then I keep Benadryl in there for allergies. So just 25 milligram tablets of Benadryl. If anybody or myself is having an allergy, can take that. I keep a Sharpie marker, so if I need to write something on a wound, so this was packed at this time, or I need to write on the tourniquet the time the tourniquet was applied, then I can do that with my permanent marker. Now finally, the one piece of equipment that I use that I keep in here that you probably don't think you need in your medical kit is a Bic razor. This is a Gillette razor. Okay, so why do you need this? Well, when I split open my leg, I had Dermabond and I had steri strips, but I have hairy legs, all right? And so no wound closure is going to be able to function well when you have hair on your extremity. So whether it's my arm or my legs, I needed to get that to a place where I could get those steri strips across it and close the wound. So I was able to use the sharp razor end of this to take all the hair off that area, irrigate it, get it clean, apply some Mastisol, put some steri strips on it, followed by some gauze and an ace wrap, and I was set, all right? I didn't have to go directly to the hospital to seek medical attention. I was able to take care of that wound on scene. Now, the disclaimer to that is it's possible to just leave the wound open. If you need to get hemostasis, clean the wound out, pack it, put a gauze ace wrap on it, you could leave it open and not close it and then seek medical attention for indeed a professional closure. So it's up to you, but I felt that having a razor in my pack allows me to remove hair so I can clean the area and get wound closure if indeed I have to do that. All right, so that is my medical kit. All that fits in here. I can cinch that up and now attach it to my pack and it's ready to go. You can alter this for the type of activity that you're doing, but I think with all of those things we talked about today, you can do basic first aid and even some advanced care right on the ski slope or out on the mountain bike trail. So I would love to hear what you keep in your medical kit or your medical go bag. If you thought that anything I had was too redundant, let me know. I always love people giving me feedback on how I can be better prepared. So, as always, be safe, work hard in whatever you're doing. I'd love to connect with you in the comments. If you like this video, make sure to give it a share, give it a like, sign up, subscribe to Citizen Surgeon, turn on the notifications. I love connecting with you. I usually put out medical education content for medical students and residents, but also for any human that is interested in medicine. So that could be you. Subscribe to the channel. I really enjoyed doing this one today, talking about my medical go bag, because I love getting in the outdoors and I love